Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Cast the Future episode. I am Curtis. I am your host. This is the show. We take a movie from 20 years or older and then cast it with new actors of today to see what that movie would look like if it came out in this exact time. I'm Curtis. I'm going to be one of the judges. We have a newcomer. We have Johnny, who's going to be one of our debaters. We have Hunter coming back. He's also one of our debaters. We got Jessica coming back as a judge. We got Logan coming back as a judge. We have Nicole coming back here as a judge. And we have our third debater. We got Erik. Now, as you can see by Hunter's background, the movie obviously that we are doing today is the 1984 coming of age sports classic, The Karate Kid. Of course, it's a story of a teenager named Daniel LaRusso who moves from New Jersey all the way to the Valley area in California to go to high school. And as always, when you're a new kid, life gets a little bit rough. You just have trouble making friends, get bullied a, a bunch, and you have these awkward tendencies when you meet a new girl that you like. But these bullies are from the Cobra Kai dojo are really roughing up Johnny, but Johnny gets help from a wise old Japanese repairman living in this apartment area, Mr. Miyagi, played by Pat Morita, played wonderfully by Pat Morita, and Miyagi becomes Daniel's personal sensei, teaching karate, and so Daniel can stand up for himself and fight against Cobra Kai at the tournament. So as we do with all our Cast the Future episodes, we're going to start off by just giving a little minutes opinions on the movie and our personal connections to the film. I will go off first. Karate Kid is a movie that I saw when I was a kid. I think like for a lot of kids, like when you watch this movie, you immediately want to take karate lessons, and that's exactly what I did. I only got up to being a yellow belt, but yeah, this is a coming of age classic. Yeah, there's a lot of corny stuff in it. There's some acting that's kind of a bit outdated. There's some overacting, especially by the antagonist. But that's just the world of this film. This film just takes you into this like grounded yet over the top world that you you just don't get tired of watching. And the heart of this movie, of course, is the relationship between Mr. Miyagi and Daniel LaRusso. Since Daniel doesn't really have a father figure in his life, Pat Maria becomes that father figure, and it's warm, loving relationship. But yet yet Mr. Miyagi's not afraid to be stern or strict with Daniel whenever he's trying to teach him a lesson. And then the karate fighting is so authentic as well. It really is relatable, even especially those who feel like they're an underdog. So Karate Kid is a movie that I always sort of cherish. But let's go to you, Erik. What are your thoughts on the original Karate Kid?
Original Karate Kid. That movie meant a lot to me when I was a kid, especially being bullied in grade school. That definitely actually did send me to martial arts as well, but I stuck with it and went all the way to black belt. It was worth it. So I did experience some of the things that Daniel did go through. I just didn't have a Cobra Kai school. I went to the karate school. You would probably consider Cobra Kai, but they had Mr. Miyagi's teachings, like same building and all that. But with the Karate Kid, it was one of the first movies I saw that had an underdog-like story. And it's the same director as Rocky, so I guess that's why this director took it on. And being from Philadelphia, Rocky is very big in my city. But with the Karate Kid, just seeing like Daniel's not the typical like superhero. He is like all of us, like an average Joe, but he went against all odds learning martial arts. And he didn't learn it for vengeance. He learned it for self-defense. And it helped him in the long run. And to me, that kind of story is ageless today. And thank goodness Cobra Kai came out after all those sequels. But the Karate Kid, the original, it's the OG of karate movies to me. And it's just fun to watch. Curtis, I love you always pick these movies where we grow up with it, and it's one of those films you got to watch from beginning to end every time. And it just always gets your heartstrings going, and it has that effect on me.
All right, and of course, we can get through this episode without mentioning the Cobra Kai show. If you don't watch Cobra Kai, watch Cobra Kai. It's awesome. Let's see. Hunter, what are your thoughts on The Karate Kid 1984?
Yeah, The Karate Kid, definitely a formative movie for me as a nerdy little Italian boy. I also took karate, and look at me now, I'm awesome. It was awesome, very big, played a very big role in me becoming the Japanophile that I still am to this day. And I mean, I love not just the first one, but all the sequels, and at least the first two. Yeah, I mean, such a classic film, and Pat Morita's role as Mr. Miyagi is just one of the all-time most iconic roles in all of cinema. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those movies that, like, if you haven't seen it, you still know it just through cultural osmosis. Like, so there's almost nothing else I can say to add to it.
How about you, Jessica? What are your thoughts on Karate Kid?
I like it. It's been a while since I've seen it. The first time I watched it, I was actually in high school. I was a freshman, and we just had like a movie day watching it. It's very 80s, and in my book, that's a positive. I really liked it. My brother was really big into karate growing up, so kind of seeing some correlations between the two of that, I always thought was interesting. But yeah.
Oh, Johnny, what are your thoughts on Karate Kid?
A lot, a lot of thoughts. So it's really, to make it as quick as possible, I was raised by my Italian family and not my Chinese Filipino family. So as much as it's a hashtag, identification or any of that is very, very important. So I didn't really know a lot of my Asian culture growing up. So when you see someone like Miyagi, it's everything for it to be a young Asian kid who really doesn't know a lot about his culture. And it's just, there's something so brilliant. And, with a father figure gone and wanting to take karate after seeing this movie as anybody would have, I grew up with this family that was just like, we can't afford karate. Like, Daniel doesn't pay for classes. He's going to his handyman, and it's just, and there's a lot of identification that I have with Daniel being Italian and having sort of like this hot-blooded, like, unrest inside of someone, especially as a teenager. Plus also, I love the fact that it touches on veterans, on the fact that Kreese is a Vietnam veteran, and Miyagi, was in World War II, and it just shows how American culture sort of depicts and sort of like treats its veterans, and it's all around, like, again, it's a really great movie that teaches, as a Libra, balance for me, that the whole big thing, the rewatching of the balance of sometimes it's got to be like this, sometimes it's got to be like that, but like you have to be decisive in what you choose. So, I mean, that's the thing I take away from it. And the best thing about Cobra Kai is that there's no right, there's not that there's no right and wrong. It depicts point of views very well,
Okay. How about you, Logan? Who does the Karate Kid?
I mean, when it comes to the Karate Kid, there's a reason it's a classic. I think hilariously, I oddly saw Karate Kid Part 2 before I saw the original. It was on TV before, because Eric, I can see how confused you look. It wasn't a conscious decision. It just happened that way. But one of the things that I found myself really enjoying about it was, like, because I did martial arts when I was a kid, and the fact that Daniel was, I think it was said earlier by Hunter, the fact that he was doing this martial art for self-defense, not for attack and aggression, but for, to help others. And that was, that was always something that kind of stood out to me as something that I thought was really, really cool. And then when it came to the character of Miyagi, the fact that you have someone as unassuming as Pat Morita, like when he auditioned, I read a story where people were like, really, the dude from Happy Days, that's who we're gonna get to be this karate man? But he brings this beautiful energy and this unassuming power to a character like Miyagi that kind of permeates throughout the rest of the movie and throughout the sequels that followed. And I think the reason it continued as long as it did, excluding Cobra Kai, mostly because you'll see why in a second, was the strength of Pat Morita's performance as Miyagi, and kind of wanting to see more of that character. So I'll be very curious to see what we kind of develop to put together this newer version.
And finally, Nicole, your thoughts on Karate Kid.
Yeah, so it resonates with me a lot because it just, my mom and I, we originally watched it together. I mean, she's the one who got my love for 80s film going really strong. I saw The Outsiders before I saw The Karate Kid, so seeing Ralph Macchio starring in The Karate Kid was definitely something that got my attention because The Outsiders is a great film. But when you watch it, I've always had a big old crush on Billy Zabka, just like Neil Patrick Harris in How I Met Your Mother, which I always love that reference. No, but it's just a great coming of age story, and I love the cheesiness. I love, the good versus evil, but I feel like that can be depicted on both sides. Like Johnny was just heartbroken at the end of the day, and then Daniel was just trying to be the bigger man on campus and just wanted to fit and belong, and he wasn't moving back to Jersey anytime soon, so he had to learn how to do something in order to move forward. But yeah, so it just makes me, I just love this film so much. I really do. It's just, there's not many words that I can say about it because there's just so many.
All right, but as with all past and future episodes, we're going to pretend that this movie never existed, never happened, wiped from our memories, wiped from our minds. It never was released in 1984, but was released in 2020. Same script, same story, same outcome, but who are the appropriate actors and appropriate director to make this film for today? So let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and cast to the future. Now, our first round, we're going to focus on our antagonists, our two antagonists of the story, Kreese and Johnny Lawrence. Which Johnny Lawrence is the rival to Daniel LaRusso, both in being the bigger man and getting the love interest, Allie. Johnny Lawrence is Allie's ex-boyfriend, and when Daniel comes to town, he gets a bit jealous that she shows kind of attention towards Daniel, and so they start a fight at the beach. Kind of he and his Cobra Kai gang kind of beat him up, which is why Daniel has to go and take lessons from Miyagi. And Johnny's just that spite, that needle in Daniel's wound that just keeps stinging and won't go away until Daniel does something about it. And then we got Kreese, who is Johnny's sensei. Kreese, of course, is the over the top, pay no mercy, tough, no nonsense type of old school type of guy. Very machismo, very very masculine, very hard and very rough with his students. And we need an actor who could portray that, could be intimidating, kind of funny at the same time, but mostly intimidating and show that really rough exterior that defines what Cobra Kai initially stands for. So let's start off with Erik. Who are your choices for Johnny Lawrence and for Kreese?
All right, for my Johnny Lawrence, I chose Asher Angel. He was Billy Batson in Shazam. I guess like his rebellious side as Billy Batson is why I chose him. I guess for me, when I watching Shazam, like he was tasked with handling a very emotionally charged scene with his mother. I am not going to say what it is to those who haven't seen it, but the look in his blue eyes is what said everything. Like imagine if he took it differently. And I'm just like, if he had more of a darker side, I'd like to see that from him. And for me, it's like, it would be an escape because like all I've seen him in is Shazam, but it would be an escape from being typecast as always playing someone like Billy Batson. And like, I can already see him getting bullied by Kreese and like being like being the jealous ex-boyfriend. I feel like working with Daryl F. Sandberg gave him enough experience to want to try something different. because Darryl F. Sandberg himself was doing something different with Shazam after doing horror movies. So I feel like Billy would want to escape and try to play more of an antagonist, but also we kind of feel for him toward the end a bit. So I think Asher would be able to pull that off. And my choice for Kreese is Frank Grillo. If everyone has seen Avengers, you've all seen him as Crossbones. But what I knew him from before I saw him in the MCU was Warrior, where he played Joel Edgerton's MMA trainer. And even though he had a small role in Civil War, he was beyond intimidating, and he made his moment count. And this is not a big role for him, and he is more of like a character actor, yet I feel like he would bring a lot to Kreese. And this is important to me. In Winter Soldier, he said, "Strike team, move out." And I am already putting the words in his mouth. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. I can already picture him saying that. And he's already an intimidating looking dude. I would not want to mess with him on the streets. And I think he would really do a good job intimidating Johnny and intimidating everybody and getting in Miyagi's face. He will be scary. Maybe not with the burn marks from Civil War, but he is already scary enough without those burn marks. So again, my choices for Johnny is Asher Angel and Kreese for Frank Grillo.
All right. Hunter, here's your choice for Johnny Lawrence and for Kreese.
All right. So first up for Johnny Lawrence, I'm picking a lesser-known actor, Mr. Tom Taylor, who just recently turned 19 years old. He's an English actor, known largely for the failure The Dark Tower as the kid in that film, and more recently starring as Lance in the underrated The Kid Who Would Be King. And those two films in particular are really what I base my choice on for picking for Johnny Lawrence, because Johnny, as we see in not just The Karate Kid, but later in Cobra Kai, has his own story, and he's a bully for a reason, and because he's got a chip on his shoulder. And so I think an actor who was promised a franchise like The Dark Tower, only to have it come crashing down around him and nobody even know who he is, that kid's going to have a huge chip on his shoulder, of course. And then in The Kid Who Would Be King, he actually played a very similar role to Johnny Lawrence, a high school bully who ends up having a little more of a heart of gold. For Kreese, I got to go with another MCU actor who has assaulted me with YouTube workout ads for years, Mr. Chris Hemsworth. Because not only, of course, is he intimidating, can you see him in the gi leading a group of young men, but like Curtis set me up perfectly for, Kreese is not just intimidating, he's also kind of funny in that, like, in a dark humor sort of way. And I think Chris Hemsworth, as we've seen him throughout his career, he's not just a great chiseled Adonis, might drill a little bit, leading man. He is also a very funny dude, and he can balance those two things perfectly at the same time. So I'll get into both of those more, but I think that the 1-2 blondie punch of Tom Taylor and Chris Hemsworth, that's my Cobra Kai, and Cobra Kai never dies.
Okay, and Johnny, who is your choice for Johnny and for Kreese?
My choice for Johnny's choice for Johnny is going to go to the very relatable, sort of out of casting, Hudson Yang, known from Fresh Off the Boat. As the series goes on, he just seems to be like this titan. Like picking child actors is very difficult because they age out of roles, and it's just as hard for women too. So the funny thing is that like picking Hudson Yang is, so I can imagine being sort of unconventional in the idea that that he's just, you're used to him being this kind of relatable, kind of like fun protagonist. But I like to, whenever I'm behind casting everything, I like to challenge actors, and I like to see what they can do. And so one of my things is with Hudson Yang is that he's already a very tall kid, and part of what makes Johnny Lawrence the character is that he's there, and you see it in Cobra Kai, but you see it in the beach scene. They're both wearing red and blue. They're two sides of the same coin. So Daniel and Johnny are very much the same person in a way. So that's part of the reason why I would go with him. And plus, he has this kind of, young, hip kind of thing. So the concept of him like rolling a J in a bathroom, I kind of know. I kind of want to see him go against the convention of being like, hey, I'm a likable ABC like actor. So I'm down with that challenge. And for Kreese, again, another challenge might be Joel McHale. I see him, if you've seen him with his shirt off, dude is ripped. And so he has that intimidating sort of scary thing that he can use to his advantage, because he already has this, hey, I'm a likable, smarmy, community lead. But in that, he's very manipulative. And so having that manipulative person can be used for, like, the way he corrupts young kids. And if we're updating it, he can play that veteran who probably fought in Afghanistan and is, creating a business, coming back from being a veteran, coming back from combat. And he just has that, to me, just looking at him and the roles that he chooses, he has this vibe of just an entrepreneurial douchebag, that might be a little Terry Silver from the third movie, but Terry Silver seemed to be a little bit more like expansion and super manipulative, whereas Kreese just seems like, post-traumatic stress the wrong way, in the worst way. But those are probably my two.
Okay, Erik, Johnny, Hunter, debate your choices.
We all chose actors that we want to go against type, right? Especially for Johnny.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you, I'm very humbled by everyone else's choice, because at a certain point I go, and you'll see with Allie, there's moments where I was like, oh man, that would be perfect. Oh, all right, you guys already got it. And not to be too like philosophical, Miyagi or whatever. It's like, I'm gonna be so bad at debating this because you guys do so good, and plus you're used to this. But like, I don't want to tell you you're wrong because it's not in my nature to do that. But you guys have picked great choices. But to a certain degree, like some of them I can't see, some of them I can. I don't know.
Which
Well,
one?
Johnny, I appreciate your Miyagi style, but I'm Cobra Kai and I'm striking first. Your choices are wrong, my man, and let me tell you why. You explained it yourself in your own opening argument, man. Both of your choices, you set them up to be like, these probably are out-of-the-box choices. These aren't necessarily the right way to go. And you know what? I got to wholeheartedly agree with you, man. First off, Hudson Yang, I mean, love him fresh off the boat, but there's a reason he's the son of Cinnamon Roll Randall Park, because he's a little cinnamon roll himself. I can't see him as a school bully.
He had a chance to be intimidating in Shazam.
Oh yeah,
and
then Joel McHale on the other side. I think actually seeing him as Terry Silver, that's inspired casting. But and yeah, he's a ripped dude, but I don't see him so much as a combat veteran as much as I see him as an underwear model. That's
how I feel about Chris Hemsworth.
His entire career, he's the guy who could talk himself out of a situation, and he's not going to be using his fist. Erik, I got to touch on yours. I mean, Asher Angel, up and comer with Shazam. I liked him in that movie well enough, but I got to be honest, man. I think you picked the least interesting thing about Shazam. Every time that Asher is off screen, the movie is better. And so I think he's got something, but I don't know if he's the right way to go with this. Frank Grillo, I got to give it to you. Not a bad choice for an intimidating dude, but if we're talking about balancing beyond just being the psychopath, and he can kind of have more of a comedic vibe to him, then that's where I think Frank Grillo really loses it for me as for John Kreese.
Mm-hmm. And yet you choose Chris Hemsworth.
I gotta say, there is a level of, of necessarily like, if you're picking the type, you know, you've read the script, this and that. Challenging is very important as far as filmmaking and audience, because you look at Robin Williams, you look at Pat Morita, you pick conventionally funny actors, and then you get floored away by how much they deliver. When you know, It's Not Your Fault in Good Will Hunting, and the internment camp scene in the drunk scene in this one, you just get floored away. You get an Oscar nominated like Pat Morita did. So you go against conventions and you fight for the things that you fight for. And, you know, if you strike first, like, that's all fine and cool, but, you know,
Well,
I'll defend.
For Hunter, is Tom Taylor, has he done an American movie yet?
Not yet. This will be.
Can he do an American
accent?
accent?
Oh, sure. Everyone can do an American accent. Hamburger. Johnny,
Burger,
I gotta,
Olive Garden.
I do wanna, exactly. I want to say something on that for Joel McHale. I hear what you're saying about giving an actor the opportunity, but when I think of actors that have been given an opportunity, Joel McHale is up there. The guy has had 2 TV shows, Crash and Burn, and now he's doing the after show for Tiger King. As much as I love him, I mean, his career peaked at the bank teller in Spider-Man 2. And
and if
Erik,
he had a bigger role in
Tom
Stargirl,
Taylor,
I would say, okay, maybe I would go with Joel McHale, but he's barely in Stargirl.
and Tom
Maybe
Taylor,
it's next season, we'll see, but
you
it's
give the
just,
kid
I'm
a
not
dialogue
seeing
coach.
that
He can
intimidating
easily
part
do
of
an
Kreese
American
yet.
accent. And he can
He'll
easily
definitely
do
be
an
funny.
American accent, and it's more about, for Johnny, it's more about like the presence, you know, like he honestly doesn't have that many lines, but in the film, so whenever you look at him, just the physical presence, you have this tall, blonde kid who just looks like they've got it all, but on top of that, they have this chip on their shoulder, and I mean that is Tom Taylor to a T. To go to the
Tom
extreme
Taylor,
alliteration.
I'm less familiar with his work.
Watch Kid Ubi King.
Okay.
Highly
But
recommend.
if judging from like a quick Google search, his look does have this sort of like working class English like thing, you know. He seems like he listens to like weird 80s this. He looks like he listens to Joy Division. He looks like a kid who has a hardcore chip on his shoulder. However, there's something very American, and I don't mean to be
Just say it. Go.
make this, but you know, there's something about the American experience. I mean, as an Italian American identifying with some kid from Jersey not fitting in, or you know, all this kind of stuff, identifying as the audience. So maybe that's why I cast Asian Yang, is because I see a lot of the stuff in me, or me as an audience member, projected there. But there's something to the American experience that I don't know that this kid really has. You know, this upper crust kid, which is, I mean, perfect for Johnny because he's an upper crust kid. And here's my question, is what is the chip on his shoulder? Because William Zabka said that like he saw it that Johnny didn't have a father in the home, as does Daniel. So there's so much of them that are,
My guy, for Asher Angel, he experienced that for an entire film. He did, and also the comedic
My guy
part
Tom
of that,
Taylor experienced it in real life. I gotta agree with you. He does look the perfect for Johnny, and on top of that, he has the actor can bring real life experience with chip on his shoulder. What I mentioned in my opening statement was this kid was the lead kid in The Dark Tower, put up next to Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba. He was gonna be the next Daniel Radcliffe. He was gonna be the next big young actor leading
did it happen?
Adaptation. It didn't, and that's why he's perfect for Johnny, because he's got this chip on his shoulder that he could bring from real life into the character, because he thought of himself as this protagonist. He was gonna be the next leading man, and he's not, and that is Johnny Lawrence.
My guy, I didn't really get a chance to argue about Frank Grillo.
Please go.
What I want to say about Frank Grillo is no matter how small his role is in anything, he still makes an impact. And he is an actor. He said he can't bring the comedic side. He's an actor. He can be funny. If he wants to be funny, he can pull it off, especially working with everyone in the MCU when there were moments of comedy. I feel like he could pull that off. And also, he went up against Captain America fearlessly. A very intimidating looking Chris Evans, he went up against him in an elevator. He didn't win, but he still went for it. And I feel like he's just had a lot of experience working with a lot of different actors. And recently he was a love interest on the show Billions, which is unlike anything I've seen him in. And he was an artist on that show, but he still had those bulging muscles, but it didn't stop him from being an artist. But he still goes for it. I feel like he would take the risk. And Chris Hemsworth, I'm sorry, I cannot see him without a hammer in his hand.
Well, open
He's
your
funny
eyes,
as
man.
hell.
Check
He's
out
funny as
Extraction
hell,
on
but
Netflix.
I feel like they would want to give him more. He would want more lines, or they would want to give him more lines. They want to give him a bigger part. And I feel like that takes away from the mysteriousness that is Kreese. Chris Hemsworth's clear as day. And I feel like Frank Grillo would bring that mysteriousness because we really don't know who he is in Winter Soldier. I mean, it's revealed, but we don't really know who he is. He keeps that mysteriousness to himself.
You got to check out Extraction and some of the other movies.
He was the leading man in that, though. This is a small role.
Yeah, exactly. And I, you know what? You mentioned that Chris Hemsworth might improv a little bit, but I like that. And
he would want
to
more.
Quote John Kreese,
I would want to give him more.
Logan picked up what I'm putting on there.
I got to say about Kreese, about one of the things with Kreese that I really dig about my choice that I'm proud of is the fact that Kreese, in the first one, he doesn't do a lot of action himself. He isn't. He's more of a snake in the grass, which is part of the reason why I go with Joel McHale. Manipulative, using people to his advantage, and so it's a snake in the grass. So if we don't see someone who's like fully punching, it's just it's met with aggression. It's met with fear, you know, and just I don't know, snake in the grass. Cobra Kai.
That's what my boy Frank can do.
What's that?
So that's what my boy Frank can do. We shall see.
All right. That was a wonderful debate, guys. That was a good job. Hunter coming in with the shots, man. Hunter, you just...
Oh, now I know this is going to be vicious.
Bank clerk from Spider-Man 2. Oh, my God.
Thank you for mentioning that, by the way.
Wow. These are all really interesting choices here. So for the Johnny Lawrence character, I'm looking up the Hudson Yang's career and who he is. I'm sorry, Johnny. I believe you that he is a talented kid being on the show, but I have to agree with Erik and Hunter's sentiments here. I just can't see him as like the top guy at school. But I'm sure he's a nice, really talented kid. It just does not have that Johnny Lawrence image, that Johnny Lawrence vibe to me. This was between Tom Taylor and Asher Angel. As much as I love Asher Angel and Shazam, and much I think the kid's talented, I have to go with Hunter's choice for Tom Taylor. Because, even though he did bring up a subpar movie, A Dark Tower, he did bring up the kid who would be king. And he has a lot of Johnny Lawrence vibes in that movie as well, playing the bully, but has a background that could possibly, a background that kind of hardened him, and he could possibly be someone who could be redeemed, and someone who could be intimidating, and who could be sort of a threat to a new coming underdog. So I'm going Hunter's choice for Tom Taylor. As for Kreese, all interesting choices. I wouldn't mind. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing any of these actors play Kreese. Or just with Joel McHale, I could get like the witty, smart aleck type of vibe side of Kreese with Joel McHale. I just can't see the toughness really. With Chris, between Chris Hemsworth and Frank Grillo, Hunter, I really wish that you brought up stuff like, even though these couple of movies were subpar, like Ghostbusters 2016 and the new Vacation at Helms, those are subpar movies, but Chris Hemsworth was the best part, arguably, of those movies. And Chris Hemsworth is that type of actor, doesn't mind playing side roles, even though mostly he's a leading man. He does pop up as a side character here and there once in a while. And I also wish you brought up, I don't know if you've seen it, Bad Times at the El Royale, where he basically plays the villain in that movie. I wish you brought that up too. And he is really intimidating in that film as well, as this cult leader. But I didn't really see brought up those sides of Chris Hemsworth's argument. So my choice is to go with Eric's choice for Frank Grillo, because I know you didn't get a lot to say about Frank in the main debate, but I pretty much got sold on what you said in the intro about him just having that stature. He could deliver. You could see him deliver Kreese's lines, especially the way he plays his character in the MCU and in other films. So yeah, my choice for Kreese is Frank Grillo, and for Johnny Lawrence is going to be Hunter's choice for Tom Taylor. Jessica, what do you think?
These were interesting choices. The hardest part for me is Kreese, so I'm going to need to think a little bit more on that. So I'll start off with Johnny. Looking at Hudson Yang, I think he would have been an interesting choice. It's just, for me, I can't get past, he still kind of has that baby face to him. He has softer facial features. So for that, that I have a harder time seeing him as kind of like the intimidating kind of bully character, or like one of the main antagonists. I think he's just too sweet looking. So for me, between Asher and Tom, honestly, it kind of just came down to, just because these are two actors that I personally haven't seen a whole lot of their work. Tom Taylor I haven't seen in anything, and Asher I've only seen Shazam. But it was actually Hunter's argument for why he is basically Johnny in real life after kind of getting screwed out of the Dark Tower. And then I looked up his photo, and honestly, his look, he looks like he's a Johnny. He looks a little bit more mature. He just kind of fits that mold better for me. So my choice is going to go with Hunter's Tom Taylor. And for Kreese, I mean, I always kind of think of Kreese of yes, he's a villain. He also has to kind of have that intimidating stature, a little bit more athletic. So for me, unfortunately, as much as I love him, I couldn't really see Joel McHale in it. So for me, it was between Chris and Frank. And I agree with Curtis. I really wish that you had brought up Ghostbusters and Bad Times at El Royale, just because for me personally, I feel like his best performances are in that supporting category. He's very funny. I wish he would do more comedies. But I will say, kind of looking between the two, I felt like more argument was given for Chris Hemsworth as compared to Frank. I just didn't get a chance to really hear good standing arguments for Frank, and it's just kind of picking between the two. I know that Chris can do comedy. I don't know that Frank can. So Chris can be kind of that intimidating figure while also being comedic relief when he needs to be. So I'm going to go with Chris Hemsworth.
All right. How about you, Logan?
Well, let me say first off that these were stellar debates all around. And I don't think I've laughed this hard at a debate in quite a long time. So, well, you know what? Let's start off with Kreese. And you know what, Hunter, you said it first. Strike first, strike quick. So we'll start with you, with your choice for Chris Hemsworth. Honestly, I like Chris Hemsworth. I think he's a good choice. You said that he can be funny in a dark way. I thought it was hilarious that you started with the fact that YouTube or Twitter peppers you with the workout ads, because I've seen those exact same ones. So it was yep. But when it comes to Chris Hemsworth, I've never really seen him fail. And there's something about Kreese where he feels like he has failed at least a little bit to be running the dojo. He might not see it as he has failed, but he has failed at least a little bit to be just running this dojo. And I don't see that out of Chris Hemsworth. But I loved all the arguments with it. Johnny, your arguments for Joel McHale, I liked a lot of those. The fact that he can be a douche, the likable and swarmy. I like the snake in the grass and the manipulative kind of thing. Honestly, the big thing that it kind of came down to for me, you talked about when he takes off his shirt, he is big and buff, but the one thing that I never really feel when I look at Joel McHale is scared. I'm never really kind of scared of him as a person. And you can kind of be a little scared of Kreese every once in a while. And really, honestly, what sold it was Erik's argument with Frank Grillo for Kreese, because he is always small roles in things, whether it's stuff the Avengers movies or a favorite of mine, The Gray. If anybody of y'all have seen that one, That's the one where you think Liam Neeson's going to fight wolves, and it's really existential and terrifying. But with that, he always takes those small roles and makes them something bigger, and you always kind of remember his part. So so that was, I think, for me, the argument that kind of sold it for Frank Grillo. We jump into Johnny. I liked a lot of these. Erik, I loved your argument for Asher Angel. I liked that he can handle the emotional stuff. You could see him being bullied a little bit, like, and kind of work that angle, but he can be a jerk. But again, it's one of those, it's weirdly the same kind of, there's a certain positivity that kind of, that Asher was kind of carried with him throughout Shazam, even when he was hitting the hard stuff, like it was a positivity there that I don't really feel with Johnny in a lot of the movie. And then jumping over to Johnny's choice for Hudson Yang. Honestly, I have not watched Fresh Off the Boat, so I was going straight out of just the arguments and some of the visuals I was getting from the Google image search of the kid. And you know what? In a few of the shots where he's putting on what I can only call his mean face, and I was like, you know what? All right, like I could see aspects of it. The argument you were making was a good one, but really what sold it for me was Hunter's argument with the meta commentary. For Tom Taylor being handed this franchise, you're gonna be the next Daniel Radcliffe, and then nope. That on this kind of weird meta level works when you're casting on stuff. Like, that's one of the reasons why, like, casting Michael Keaton in Birdman works really well, because it's got this kind of fun meta to it. So if I was picking between those, I would say Erik's choice for Frank Grillo for Kreese, and I would say Hunter's choice for Tom Taylor for John.
All right, so it looks like your vote is obvious for who's going to be Johnny Lawrence with 3 points for Tom. We still need our Kreese. So, Nicole, what are your thoughts? Just your opinions on Johnny if you want to as well.
Well, actually, I had the same choices for both. For Hunter, I was going to do Hunter's choice for Johnny as Tom Taylor, and for Kreese, I was going to do Erik's as Frank Grillo. For Kreese, in my opinion, Frank actually he has that very rugged, post-military, he just looks like a cruel individual, and Kreese is supposed to put the fear of God in his dojo's eyes, essentially. And he just looks like that he could whoop some major booty. I muted myself. Mind my words. I'm very proud of that. But I kept flip-flopping, I will say, with Joe McHale, because I am a big fan of Joe McHale, and I don't think that it was a bad choice that you had him down as Kreese, because he does have, we obviously know that he's big in comedy. Now, I have seen him try to go a little bit darker, but the only reason why I chose Frank was because I think I'm just big of a fan of Joe McHale that I can't see him as a villain, and I don't want to see him as a villain and take that Kreese role. And then for Chris Hemsworth, I just think that he's too big as an actor right now to fall into the Kreese, to those shoes. I mean, I know that he's done some sideline characters. However, the original actor, Martin Kove, he just had TV credits, and Chris Hemsworth, that's a household name, in my opinion. So as for the Johnnies, I just think Tom Taylor, he definitely does have that look. He doesn't have very much under his belt, but what he does have, he does really well in. Asher, he's a handsome young fella. I think he would do a great job. I just prefer Tom. And then Hudson, like Jess said, he's just got that mega baby face, and he looks so baby tiny. He's only 16, which, age is not a huge factor in this since it is a high school film. But he looks even younger than that, which is kind of how Ralph Macchio, in my opinion, was in the original Karate Kid. So, yeah, Tom Taylor and Frank Grillo.
All right, so we officially got our Johnny Lawrence and Kreese. Tom Taylor as Johnny Lawrence and Frank Grillo as Kreese. So again, nice debate for the first round. Let's get into the second round. We're going to be casting our hero's mother, Lucille LaRusso, played by Randy Heller. Of course, Lucille is the nurturing, mothering, loving woman in Daniel LaRusso's life. Yes, she's sweet and motherly, but she also has that tough Jersey side to her as well. So let's not forget about that. She can get strict with Daniel. She can be that stern mother, but deep, she cares for Daniel really, really deeply, just wants the best for him. which is why she thought moving to California would be a great idea so they could start a new life together. Hunter, who's your choice for Miss Lucille LaRusso, lover to Daniel?
My pick for Miss Lucille LaRusso is the Italian mama herself, Miss Marissa Tomei. Marissa Tomei can do this role in her sleep. Ant-Man and Spider-Man movies, her recent role in The King of Staten Island. This is the kind of role that not only is she playing right now in her career, but she is batting 1,000, knocking them out of the park, where she can handle not just the supportive side, but showing you the vulnerability of the single mother just doing the best she can. And she will break your heart while she does it. And honestly, I feel like Marissa Tomei would elevate this role beyond even what's on the page. So that's why she's my pick.
Johnny, who's your choice for Miss LaRusso?
I'm going with Greta Gerwig, mainly based off of Frances Ha and Mistress America, as someone who really doesn't have all the answers. And there's the line where Daniel's like, I hate my stupid bike, I want to go home, and his mother says, fighting doesn't solve anything. And then when he throws back at her and says that neither does palm trees about moving to California, and she says that's not fair. I can hear her voice in every single line that Lucille has. There's something about picking someone and maybe also playing a younger mother who is just doing what she has to do for her family, for her son, and for her better interests. When she's saying that she's like, oh, I'm getting promoted to manager, tell me about this cute girl. I would love to see that conversation. Or if I was in the scene, if I was Daniel, love to have that conversation with that kind of warmth that she has. She tells stories as a director, so well that I think that she would super get this. She would super get the motherly role, having directed Little Women and and Lady Bird, Little Bird, Lady Bird. There's something about femininity and warmth and motherhood that is just, I can't wait to see from her.
And Erik, who's your choice for Miss LaRusso?
My choice for Miss LaRusso is Naomi Watts. She is one of those actresses that it doesn't matter if it's a big role, doesn't matter if it's a small role, she'll still do it. I think I thought over the years, I'm like, after King Kong and a few of those movies, I'm like, oh, she should just go after big roles. But it was when she was in St. Vincent in 2014. She had a small role in that as a prostitute, and she was fantastic. But she's playing a mother in this. So it was very recently, David Lynch brought back Twin Peaks, where she played a stressed out mother in a huge ensemble. And she stood out. I mean, we all know Naomi Watts is, but being the struggling mother and really caring for her family, despite how awful her husband is, she still pulls it off. And also in The Impossible, she was nominated for an Academy Award for playing a very desperate mother in a horrible situation, but she still kept going. And this is a bit of a step back from those movies, but I feel she played a mother figure in The Ring. Thank you so much for that. And she just is she's very good at taking on those mother figures. And I feel like she would bring, she would bring a lot of energy that is needed for this movie, but she's not afraid to be the support. She doesn't beg for attention. She will play any role that she can handle. And I think she'd be a great choice.
All right, you guys, debate your choices.
It's so hard to argue against Marissa Tomei, man. But for Naomi Watts, and also going against your choice, Johnny, I feel Greta Gerwig, she's getting so comfortable behind the camera. I feel like she's going to be sticking with directing a lot more these days, as great of an actress she is.
Maybe. I don't mean to Robert De Niro face you, but maybe. Maybe.
Perfect, man.
But the thing is that I don't know, man. Maybe I just have that crush on her and her presence, and I don't know. I kind of want to fight with her more in saying the idea that Marissa. I love Marissa Tomei. My biological clock is, she's so great. But I think because of Spider-Man, but because of this star on the rise stuff, I feel like she's not just her, but like my Naomi too. They might be a sliver aged out. It's hard for women. I can't imagine them. I mean, maybe they're older. Maybe there's something in the story and the casting and your choice. And please elaborate on this. Like, maybe she's an older mother with a younger kid, and that's why it's a bit harder. Like I want to know a little bit more about the psychology of on those choices.
I feel for my choice, it was actually her role in King Kong before they go to the island where she has to face that inner struggles of like struggling in New York City in the 30s. It was like, I think like whoever directs this can really, like, she's just another actress that can act with her eyes. And you get close-ups even of Naomi Watts. I feel like she can really bring that inner struggle. And of course, to show it on the outside, I think she would bring a lot of energy to it, but she's not going to try to steal the show. Like kind of like Chris Hemsworth probably would have if we have chosen him for Kreese. He would have been able to steal the show. Naomi doesn't call attention to herself, but she makes an impact, even in those small roles.
I would agree the same thing for Greta, is that while she is the main focus of Frances Ha, she's maybe quasi not the biggest role in Mistress America. So the idea of her not being able to make it all about her or to not steal the show, there's something genuine in a mother who's just doing her best to figure it out. And I don't know, I think that I see a younger mother, in that role.
All right, I got to weigh in here. I'm glad that we all agree.
Yeah, I can't believe you didn't strike first there, Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai round is over. Now I'm playing it more like Mrs. LaRusso would want. Just, hang back and listen.
Okay.
Listen first. So, yeah, we all agree. We love Marissa Tomei. She's the best. I have a similar issue with both of your picks in that they both are so waspy. I'm very, and they feel like they come, especially Greta, they have this air about them that they come from money, that they come from privilege, and I feel like it'd be so hard to shake that image for this down on her luck mother. Whereas, Marissa does that in spades. And I hear you, Johnny. She is at 55. She might seem like on paper, like she's aged out of the role. But I mean, looks wise, not at all. And I'm going, this is new Hollywood, baby. So, in the same way that men have been playing roles that are 10, 15 years their junior because they can just get away with it, I think Marissa can do the same thing. In fact, she just did this year in The King of Staten Island, where she has one of her kids is in his 20s, and then she has a daughter who's just at that point graduating high school. So she just this year played a role where she was a mother to a child that age. And then same with Spider-Man movies too. Like she's a mother figure to a high schooler. So I think, on paper, old school Hollywood wisdom would tell us that she's too old. But honestly, you look at Marissa Tomei and you tell me she's too old. And
oh no, she's ageless.
Greta Gerwig, by the way, I love her. She is a certified genius. In fact, when we did Sunset Boulevard, she was my pick for director on that, if we were making that today. But I don't know, man. She's like new. She's new comedy. She's quirky comedy. Like she's got this. She doesn't have for me that warmth and that I think a role like this needs. And Naomi Watts, Erik, I gotta disagree with your whole approach that she is like a background player. Like, no, Naomi Watts is a marquee name leading lady.
Have you seen Twin
Peaks? Does not share the spotlight.
Have you seen St. Vincent?
I first off refuse. Second, she's the third lead in that. She's the second leading lady. She's on the poster, my man. Like, you can't tell me that she's willing to play a background role when she's on the poster for the movie.
I gotta very quickly say one thing about like being too waspy or being too from money. That could be the reason why they have to move to. She wants to start on her own. She wants to be her own mother, make the rules that she wants to make them. And there's something in her smile. There's something in her eyes that says that, you know, this is coming from a loving place that's just doing her best.
But this is still, it's like it's a main cast. It's not like we're choosing like an extra. We're choosing like the teacher here. I'm not asking Naomi Watts to play like a small role as a teacher at the high school. It's still a pretty, like, it's an important role to the movie. And I guess
I'm thinking of a recent quote I read from Charlize Theron where they came to her for the recent Wonder Woman movie, and she was offended because they asked her not to play Wonder Woman, but to play Wonder Woman's mom. And teenage son verbally, of course.
Watts, though, this is where I